Hey guys, welcome to I see the finger. Welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I, of course, am your very, very beloved host,
Oh, you
Deepak.
wanted me to introduce you? I'm sorry.
I
I didn't know that's what
yeah,
you
I
were
want.
doing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's whatever.
Oh, oh,
And
sorry.
and and I'm here. And I'm here with I'm here with the Oracle. So today's episode is actually at his stupid fucking head. Um,
Do you need
okay,
to go
so
change hats?
nah, this is fine. Plus, it says America. So anyway, so today's episode is on a topic which I feel like a lot of people are interested in, but there's not a lot out there. So you know, it'll.
Um, are you sure a lot of people are interested in it?
I think that a lot of people. It's on astral projection, guys. Actually, astral projection nightmares. So it's. I think a lot of people are, but very many people are skeptical or they're embarrassed. And I like to think that a lot of people have actually astral projected at some point in their life and they didn't know what it was or they don't know how to do it or they're too scared to say anything, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
There's
And
been stories
so,
that have been told to me, and I'm like, dude, you were astral projecting.
y- yeah. So so like for example, if you're ever laying there in bed and your mind is just wandering and you're like, oh man, I think I just need to relax. And then you very slowly just begin to think about how you need to sleep and you just need, and
You
then
gonna
it feels,
narrate that?
and yeah, and then it feels like as if the bed is slowly tilting up, like by your legs. And you feel a little bit vibration-y, like and you're laying there, you kind of
Yeah.
begin to hear like a or feel like a vibration like in your ears,
Mm-hmm.
and then you begin to feel light, and then all of a
Like you're
sudden you kind of
being.
like, oh shit, yeah, like you're almost like you're floating.
That's when people
But
get
then,
scared.
but that's when a lot of people are like, holy shit, I was falling asleep, or holy shit, I think I was, and then they jump, and then it stops.
Yep.
So
They
with
stop it from
astral
happening.
projection, yeah, they stop it, and my best advice is just let it go. Just let it
Take it.
happen.
Let it happen.
Yeah, just let it happen. You're just laying there and you're beginning to kind of feel that just instead of you like fighting it or kind of just ride the wave.
Let it happen.
But it's also not for a lot of people because I'm gonna tell you a quick story. So
Uh-oh.
um yeah, so years ago, many years ago, I was and this is before so with astral projection, um my father had he did it all the time. He was like, oh yeah, to him it was like a normal thing. He's like, oh yeah, you kind of leave your body and and it was kind of a weird thing to kind of think. But he had as if he's dead. Man, he's alive. So he would do this thing where he could actually manipulate. A lot of people are like, well, that's not a part of the astral plane. Well, it depends on how strong you are and how much of a handle you have on it. So, like for example, um, my father would do this thing where when people are like, he didn't like doing it all the time, but every once in a while, he's like, I'll show you something cool. So he'd lay there and he'd just shut his eyes and then he would just exhale and just, and then he'd lay there. And then all of a sudden, a TV would turn on, or something would fall off, something click, like fall off. Or he would tell people, like, what do you want me to do? He's like, I'm going to turn off this light and then I'm going to turn on that fan. And like, shut up. Or you tell me what you want. Okay, click on that
Oh,
light
hell
two
yeah.
times and then do that. And then he'd lay there and he just like all of a sudden he just becomes still. And then the light would just click on, click, click, and then off. And
He
then
could
a
go
fan would
into
turn
it that
on.
quick.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So then, many years later, he always told me, "I got to be careful. One of the things you want to always do is to not get lost. And that's it.
Hmm.
Don't get lost. Don't do it. That was it. He's like, don't get lost. Don't do
Don't
it."
follow
So
anything.
yeah. So yeah. Exactly. So one of my first experiences was I was laying in bed, and I remember having that feeling where I was floating, like my legs were going up, and then I just let it happen, right? So I sit up, and I'm like, all right, I think I've had enough of that feeling. That's too weird. So I get up and I get out of bed, but then I kind of like looked around, and I noticed that the whole room was kind of wavy, like, does that make sense? It was kind of like,
Yeah, it
and it was
makes
kind of
sense.
like, yeah, and it was like a different color, and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
looking weird. So then I kind of like looked behind me, and I could see myself laying there, like in bed, and I was like, this is a weird dream. So so my first thought was, I'm gonna see how high I can jump, in this weird
Oh, Jesus.
state that I am. So I jump, and I remember just jumping, and then I went super high, and I came down. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go outside. So I go outside. I'm like, do 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 do. I walk
You're a
outside.
wanderer.
Yeah. So I was kind of like looking, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I began to see like other people walking around.
Hmm.
Not a lot, but there was. So then I start walking, and I'm walking, and then I see like a dark figure at the very end of the road, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I heard a sound. It made a sound, but I couldn't describe the sound because it sounded more metallic than human. And so it started running in my direction, and then it ran inside the house. And then I was like, "Huh." So then I went inside the house too, and my instinct was, damn, my body's in there. you know you know so I was like, my body's in there. So then I
My
see this
body's in
thing,
there
like,
helpless.
yeah. So then I see this thing, and it's like kind of like crawling onto the bed. So then I grab it by,
Oh,
yeah, and
Jesus.
it's insane. So I grab it by the legs. It's a ridiculous story. I'm aware of it. So I grab it by the legs, and I pull it off of me, and then I'm like, I'm gonna break your shin bone. So I do like a, yeah. So
Shit, but
I do it, yeah, a shin bone. So I do a jujitsu move. I come in, I wrap that leg, I grab the toe, and I pull forward to like snap, but then like the leg bent like in an unnatural way, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't work. So so then we're both wrestling to get on the bed. We're like shoving each other, and finally, I remember I kind of like reached up and I grabbed my leg, and then immediately I sat up, and I remember
I've
just
never heard the story.
so remember I sat up, and I just remember being exhausted, like I was just breathing heavy, and I'm like, holy shit. And I just
You
remember,
just wrestled somebody.
so then I remember stories of my father was like, yeah, it'll make you tired, but people, what happen is they get too tired, and then they just stop and they sit there or they lay down,
Hmm.
and then that's when things, they become lost and it becomes dangerous. So after that, I just kind of had this idea where I'm like, I wonder what the hell that thing was, and I wonder if that's how some people become possessed. You know, like, what was this thing,
Oh,
right? Right.
that makes so much sense.
So I let that go, and I'm like, all right. So then years later, I'm like, I'm gonna do that thing again. So I just kind of laid there, and then this time I kind of like followed the steps. I'm like, just relax and just breathe and just exhale, and the bed begins to do the thing and the vibration. And finally, I sit up, and then I'm like, oh, I'm here again, And it was just the weirdest feeling, right? So I get up,
Again.
yeah. So then I'm like, this is bizarre. So I start walking around, right? Walking around, and I go outside, and I just remember again seeing some people just walk by. I saw somebody jump, like, and then I'm like, okay, let's kind of get a little bit further. But now I'm paranoid. I'm like, let's see if there's any dark anything, right?
I
So
mean, might as well.
yeah, so I'm looking around, I don't see anything. I'm like, all right, I think I'm in the clear. So I begin to walk around, and then and I remember running. Like, I'm just gonna start running. So I'm running like I'm Tom Cruise, but this time, like, instead of running like at a normal pace, like everything just kind of like came forward, and I remember went really far. So then I'm like, holy shit, I better turn around. I panicked and I turned around, I ran the other direction, and I just basically dove into my body. I was like, okay.
Wow. What the fuck just happened?
So then I dove and I sat up, and I'm like, holy shit. So then I remember I started to kind of play around with things. I'm like, okay, I wonder if I can fly. And I remember kind of floating there for a minute. And I remember just kind of like trying to move, and I couldn't. I'm flapping my arms to kind of get movement going. And then finally, I remember it's like just ride the wave. And I remember I was able to move and all these kind of things. But then I start seeing that a lot of these people that are there, I wouldn't call them people because they kind of look like human beings, but they had kind of like a bluish tint to them. And I
Yeah.
remember that a lot of them began to kind of like look in my direction. Some of them started to kind of like, I don't know if they were trying to talk to me, but kind of trying to come close. And I remember I'm like, oh, you're gonna have to catch me first, you know. So then I remember doing like a
Catch
big
me,
thing, and then I
bitch.
came at yeah. So I kept returning, and then finally I started to kind of get the hang of things. So then I was thinking, I wonder if I'm able to do the same thing, only instead of staying in this form, I wonder if I can remain a little bit longer and see if I can. And it's such a weird thought, but I wonder if like the vibration that I'm feeling,
Hmm.
like I wonder if I can kind of latch onto that vibration, you know, in a way. So I'm feeling I feel the vibration. I remember I try to like latch on in a way, if that's weird. And then I remember the same experience, only now everything was slightly different. It was no longer like I was no longer like in a physical form. So before I could look at my hand, look kind of weird, and I
Yeah.
was able to. But then this time I had like no hand to look at, and I
Oh,
was
interesting.
so there was no hand to look at, and instead of me like having to walk places, I remember I was just kind of like moving around, and it was more like I became like I went to like almost like a different stage to where now I'm more energy than anything. I'm no longer like an astral thing. It's more energy. And I remember that I could do this now, you know. And only now it wasn't this was easier than the other form. I remember I could just go up and
Hmm.
like see the stars and see all kinds of things. And if I wanted to get somewhere, I don't even have to run or fly anything. It was almost instant. It was like a zap, and then I was like there, and then I could kind of like look around, and you could see houses, and but it's almost like
See,
you're in a
I wish
different,
I could do that.
more of yeah. Well, you can. I just think that it just takes more practice.
Well,
So
yeah.
that was another phase.
Not my favorite.
Um, and then I was like, I wonder if I can get in between these two forms. Like instead of being the physical, if I can get into the, and then I now have like a physical form. Only now I can instantly go places and like walk around, and it was almost like I can see further and I hear further, you know, than
Yeah,
but
I mean that makes
the
sense though.
then I realized that I can make contact with other people that were in that
Hmm.
state. But the difference was that in this state that you're in, you see many different I wouldn't call them entities. It's not just the human. There's like other forms, like staticky things, shadowy things, are like everywhere now,
Hmm.
and it's almost like you broke through that barrier and now you're somewhere else. So, and then I realized that if I and this was a thought that I had, and it was almost like a knowledge, like I knew that if I wanted to, I can go down to someone and then literally grab their astral form and then pull them up. You know, does that
Yeah,
make sense? Like just
it
go over
is
there grabbing
possible
it.
though.
and then just pull them up, and then now there's two of you. You know, um, or you can set see, and it's so weird to explain because it's like not even thinking like in the physical way of thinking. It's more of a spiritual type of thing. If that makes any
It
sense.
is a weird thing to explain, and a lot of people, when you do explain it, they're like, "Yeah, mm-hmm." Because like when I've
Unless
tried explaining it to the people, they're like, "Oh, so like that movie Insidious?" I'm like, "Well, that's a scarier version of it, but yeah, in a way, kinda, not
which one was
really."
which one
That's
was
the one where the
Insidious?
kid hits his head and his parents take him to the hospital. They say that he's in a coma, send him home, and that investigator lady comes in and says,
Oh,
no,
okay.
he's lost.
And the dad was kind of a sissy, and he was being chased by like an old lady or something.
Yeah, his dad was such a wuss. Good God. Scared of an
Like
old lady?
yeah,
Please.
just punch her in the face. Wasn't that kid being chased around by a
Exactly. Just
demon?
push her.
So speaking of pushing,
Oh, that's really
you
mean.
speaking of that, well, yeah, punch the elderly.
Be nice to your
Speaking,
elders, guys.
uh, don't do it. So speaking of pushing, then I realized that there was a lot of like negative like entities, like shadow beings that were wandering around. And what's interesting is you can't. Well, at least I haven't figured out a way to do certain things, but you can't like strike, with like actual force, but
No.
you can kind of like shove, and
Like
then
push
whatever
them
you
away.
you yeah, whatever you push, but basically
Hmm.
rocket the hell out of there, and it's just like holy shit. So
Well, I think it's more
um,
intention behind it too,
probably
in all honesty.
yeah. So also when you can also like set up locations if that makes sense. Like it's almost like you can put your thought onto somebody like hey, we should hang out in this state of being. Let's meet here. And by sending that, it's almost like this, like by sending that thought to like, let's meet up in this place or let's meet up here. It's almost like that location that you set up almost pulls them
Hmm.
into that spot, you know?
Oh, and it's so easy too.
Yeah. So it pulls them in. So it's bizarre. Like I might do like more in depth um, thinking, but it's hard to explain. It's weird, but it's not at the same time, you know.
I feel like you just have to give in and do it just once, and then you understand and you get it.
Yeah. Um. So
But people are just too scared to do it.
yeah, because it's a weird thing. Like you're like this is not supposed
Hmm.
to be happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a normal feeling in any way, shape, or form.
So, so did you look
It's
up like
almost
any
like
horror?
going under anesthesia.
Oh, when
Like,
you're
when you
yeah,
just start going under and everything just starts feeling a little, ooh, you know what I mean? It's all
or you're
kind of,
skeptical. Like when the what?
kind of in a way. Is that the best way to describe it?
Well, you're skeptical. Like you're like like they said this is gonna happen, but it's not gonna happen. Then all of a sudden you're like whoa, and then you're gone. You know. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say?
I think,
Because yeah, you get skeptical, right? They're like, all right,
yeah,
what's gonna happen?
you're like, oh
What's
no,
gonna?
this isn't possible. Just kidding. What the
Yeah,
hell are
they're like,
you doing?
this is what's gonna happen, and you're like, oh yeah, right. So anyway, so I started doing a little bit of research on people's experiences of
Hmm.
astro, and and I found well, there's a lot of stories,
Oh, there's
but a
so
lot of
many. I came across a lot.
but there's like a lot of confused people too. So when I said there's a lot of people that are curious, but not a lot of information, it's because a lot of people don't know what's going on, or they don't know how to explain it, or they're embarrassed. So like you could type in like astral projection, and you do get a lot of videos
Hmm.
of people like this is how you astral project. Think about your grandmother, whatever the fuck it is, whatever technique people use. I don't know, man. So but there's not a lot of experiences like this is what I experienced or this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of videos on there on how to do it, even through hypnosis. So, and anyway, so
Anyway.
I was anyway. Geez, back to the topic. So I went into the rabbit hole of
Oh
bad
no.
experience. Yeah, bad experiences that some people had. One of the stories that this person had was they were laying in bed and they were interested in astral projection. So they said, so I put on the video on the person walking you through it and what to do. So he says, I was laying there and all of a sudden I felt like sleep paralysis. And for those of you that have experienced sleep paralysis, it's 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 a terrifying experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not for me, bro, but it's a terrifying experience where you're immediately like your senses are. You can look around and it looks like the room's on fire. And the what?
You're so weird.
How dare you? How dare you disparage me in front of the three people that watch this shitty show? Um,
There's four.
so
God damn it.
no, there's three. My mom says she's not gonna watch anymore. So,
Oh.
uh, um, so this person talked about how they were laying in bed and they're like, I'm gonna do the steps. And all of a sudden, they experience sleep paralysis, and they start seeing the Hat Man, and the Hat Man is walking towards them. It says climbs on the bed and then reaches up, he said, and grabbed his face and then immediately just ripped him up. And he is now experiencing astral projection and he's locked into this situation where he says now he's confused. He's like, am I astral projecting? Am I dreaming? Am I lucid dreaming? You know? So this thing to look at him and starts to communicate with him. And
The Hatman?
but the Hat Man is now talking to him in this astral plane. So he said that the words he wasn't speaking with words. He
Mm-mm.
was he was speaking, like through into his head. Yeah, people are like, "Are you sign language?" Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Saying you dumb bitch. Um, so he said he's speaking to him in his head, and he said, "I need your life force," basically. So that's why I pulled you
No.
up. So he said this thing kind of grabbed him, locked onto him, and he says he could just start feeling, his energy starts getting really tired. He says, and he's like,
Right.
and he said, I'm laying there and I'm really tired. And all of a sudden, it was like it was done with me. He said, so I woke up from my body. He says, I just sat up and I started vomiting. He said, and he said he felt tired, like exhausted for days. So
Ugh.
that was his
Dude,
experience.
I can't with the Hatman. No. Mm-mm. He just
So
appears in the worst of times.
yeah, yeah,
God dang.
what a piece of shit. Have
He
you heard
probably
that
has
theory that
puffy
the
nipples.
probably has puffy nipples and gonorrhea? Um, imagine he gave him like a spiritual STD. Um,
That would suck.
so yeah, so that was his experience. Was
Yeah, no.
yeah. Do you have one that you want to talk about?
So there was one that I actually heard on another podcast. Sorry. Anyways, so this girl, this girl was laying in her bed, okay, and so she's starting to go like she's used to astral projecting. She's actually done it before, etc. So she was, I guess, planning on doing it that night, you could say. So she astral projects, goes into the other dimension, and she sees her dog. Okay, well, her dog
Mm.
had passed away, but it was like almost the physical form of her dog. Okay, so the dog looks at her and she almost gets this feeling like it's telling her to follow it. Like I said earlier,
Whoa.
she didn't follow anything. So she follows the dog because she thinks that the dog is hers. The dog ends up leading her to like almost a cemetery type setting. She said she wasn't sure where this cemetery was. It was one she hadn't been to before. And he goes behind this certain headstone and he comes up like out of the headstone and becomes almost this dark human form and starts to come after this girl. So she
Oh
takes
shit.
off the other direction. And right before he gets to her, and right before he grabs her, she manages to shoot back out and go back to her body without like being near it, I guess you could say, like almost
Yeah.
like she's pulled back.
Yeah.
So
Some
she wakes
people have
up.
a cord.
Yeah, exactly. So she wakes up and she, comes up out of bed and stuff, and she looks up and sees a dark figure go outside her bedroom door and hears her door to go outside of her house open and shut.
Whoa.
Don't follow anything. Why do
Um,
people follow things?
I think because it's the whole curiosity thing, and like it said at the beginning of the
Well, and
story,
I
this
guess it
person
was her
said
dog too.
yeah, her dog that died. So maybe it's like,
I
oh,
wouldn't have
where's this
trusted my
dog
dog.
leading? Like, where the hell are you
If
leading
my
me?
dog Marley came to me like that, I would be like, oh, hell no, dude. You wouldn't be leading me anywhere. You'd be wanting me to get you food. I don't trust you.
Yeah, where are you leading me, you dirty bitch? Um,
Yeah, no.
so damn, another, and this is where it gets really dark. So another
Oh, God. You have
story.
a dark one?
Oh, I
Darker?
have a couple. Yeah, so
Here we go.
this person, so this person told a story, and they wanted to remain anonymous. They're like, "Hi, my name is Stephen Fry. Would like to remain anonymous." So they're like, yeah, they were anonymous because they were embarrassed to tell the story, but they said that they were reading a lot of books on astral projection because they got into the spiritual, and it's like, well, this is almost like the next step, right, into the
Okay.
spiritual. So started meditating and learning about astral projection. So he says that he broke through, and he says that immediately he was instantly, in this area where everything was energy-ish wise. So so what I said earlier, I wonder if he like skipped step one and he was like, instead of step two when you're like just pure energy, if he went to like
Mm-hmm.
step three where it's like the combination of both, right? So he says he was walking around and he was now seeing a lot of dark entities, and he says that he walked up to like this group of like shadow beings that were there, and they noticed him, and they
Uh-huh.
started to kind of like whatever they had, they were kind of like shoving it aside, and he was like, I want to see what's going on. So he says that he went to go look, and they had like another person with like a human shape, but it was more of a feminine type of a body. I guess it was curvy or something. So, and they said that
Hmm.
they basically they had this person by the wrist, just like pinning it down, and it looks like this one of them was like forcing himself on her.
Oh,
So
God.
so so that he was forcing, and then this thing was kind of like he could feel like almost like pulsing, like this thing was like yeah, like screaming, and they were just like holding it down, and then this person got off of it, like this dark energy got off of it, and somebody else hopped on, and they were like taking turns with this thing. So he was kind of like, I want to help.
What?
And he said he walked over there, and he says that when he was like trying to like help out, like one of them just kind of like walked over and immediately sat them back into his body, and he's like, "What the hell was that?" So
Oh,
he doesn't
that's
know. Yeah, so he was like that. I just witnessed like you know
an
um
incubus.
I maybe, but he's I guess like were these things
Oh, why are you hiding?
assaulting this poor girl, and were these dark entities, were they inhuman, or were they like just really dark people that have found something where they can, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's gross to think about.
Yeah,
Ah, now you got that shit in my head.
Yeah, it's almost like and there was a group of them, so obviously they might have known
Nail
each other.
biting one more time.
So they might have known each other. And this person had like a lot of questions. They're like, damn, like, are they demonic or are they human beings that are just so shitty that their energy just comes out as dark? And do they all know each other? Like, is this what they do? Like, instead of, do they wait for people to that have like a lower frequency because they're inexperienced? You know what I mean?
What about a possessed human being?
Like it,
So you know
I
how
get,
when a person is possessed, they have moments where they kind of go in and out of their possession.
yeah,
What if when their body's not possessed, that inhuman thing that's possessing them is over here doing its thing?
like it takes a break. Like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
take a break from you.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
take a
go do this
break.
to someone else. I'm gonna go do it to someone else. It's just
Yeah,
it's such a creepy thought, and it just reminds me of
it
that first story where this thing was like, "Hey, I need your life essence. Just give me."
is. Mm-hmm.
But this person said that it looked like legitimate um, grape. you know, like and this individual was it. It's like they couldn't
Ah,
hear it. They couldn't hear it like the person scream, but they can feel it. Like they feel the vibration and the pulse coming out of this person. Like this person's screaming, and they're
oh,
just taking
that's
turns.
terrible.
So,
Gross.
do you have another one? Because I got another one.
So I actually have one that's my mom's.
Oh,
So my mom didn't, I don't think she knew that she was astral projecting, but she tells me this story, okay? So she tells me that she was home by herself. I believe my stepdad was visiting my little brother or something. I'm not sure. Anyways, so she said that she felt like she was asleep, but she felt like all of a sudden her body, like she was in a sleep paralysis, but
yeah.
she was out of her body and was able to look back at it laying on the bed. So that was when I knew that she did. Anyways, so then she tells me that she turns around and that was when she saw the Hat Man. And she
Oh
saw
shit.
the Hat Man start walking towards her, but instead of going all the way towards her, he stopped and instead turned around and looked at her, started walking towards her astral form, and then somehow she jumps like back into her body. Like it was almost like it shocked her and she jumped back in. And she said that she woke up and her heart was just pounding and all the lights on were in her house.
I wonder if that was like instinctual. Like, damn, get back into your car before somebody
I
else
was
hops in.
thinking that too. My mom's had quite a few different like paranormal experiences and she's like you, she's still a skeptic, but it's fine.
I was really tired.
No.
So,
Anyways, but she
all
said
right. So
that
here's a
she thinks I astral projected when I was like a toddler, though, because I
whoa.
was
Why was she?
telling her what we were doing this week. And she said, well, I'm pretty sure you did it when you were little. And I said, well, why do you say that? And she goes, because I went into your room and I tried my damnedest to wake you up. And you were not budging, and you weren't a hard kid to wake up. We could wake you pretty easily. And she said a few minutes later, your eyes shot open, and you said that you were playing with this group of people in your room, and you were always talking about this group of people in your
Whoa.
room.
Huh.
So
Oh, that's different.
apparently I was like the insidious kid. I went and played with shit.
Oh, jeez.
Fine.
The
I'm a spooky kid.
Warrens.
It's fine.
Gross. Um. Yeah. No. That's. You know what I wonder? So, okay, well, this next story, if you thought that was good, no, I'm not going to keep that expert, you know. Anyway, so this next story was.
All right, experiencing some technical difficulties. The episode will be picked up next week with some more nightmarish stories. So remember, guys, to always look both ways, especially if you find yourselves on Nightmare Road.